Okay, here we have a Viking Professional. This is a model VCBB363 RSS. It's a 36-inch right-hand stainless steel. And in this video, one of the first things we're going to do on this model is change the water valve, because it's a common problem. So you're going to slide the freezer out all the way, and with the upper basket attached, you're going to pull up and out to get the basket out of the way. We can see a lot of rust in here. This is a typical problem with these Vikings. They have a problem with the freezer drain, and it usually gets backed up, and you can see all these scratches on here from the customer scraping the ice off here. And look at in the back. So that's all something that can be fixed. I'm not worried about that, but we do have some other videos we're going to make on this refrigerator. But first we're going to take the kick plate off. Okay, goes on like this. We'll put that over there for now. Here's the screws. Now the water valve is right underneath here. You get a light. And this is where the tray goes for the condensate water. Here's the water valve. Now to change that water valve, for me anyway, if you're a tech, if you're not a tech, for me, I have really big hands. I can't get underneath there. I can get the valve out, which I'll show you how to do. All right, so to get the valve out, you get a 1/4-inch nut driver or possibly a Phillips head. Either one, either will work. And we're going to take out these two screws here. Okay, here's the water valve. Now, that's as far out as it comes. Here's the harness, which we can get off. The harness is off, but I can't pull the valve out any longer because the tubing that's connected to the output there's no play. So I'm going to have to jack up the refrigerator to get my hands underneath there to pull this out. There may be another way. If you can find a way, you can get your fingers back there and pull it out like I just did. I pushed this retainer in, and I'm going to show you how that works. And this is how it works. This is a push-on, quick connect. Push it in, as far in as it goes. And then you can't pull it out because this ring, this retainer, prevents it from being pulled out. And there is a little locking tab that I'm going to show you in a minute and how to put it in to keep that from happening. But in order to take the tubing out, you have to push that in like that, hold it in, and then you can pull the tubing out. So this is the water valve. It's very similar to the Sub-Zero valve. I like these better because they have the compression fitting on the inlet, because that's the most dangerous place you're going to have a leak, because you've got a constant water supply there. On the rear, on the output, water only goes through when the valve is on. So less of a leak if you have a leak, but still devastating if it happens. So I have another valve here. Now here's another water valve. As you can see, it's almost the same valve. This is a Sub-Zero valve. This is a quick connect on both ends. This is dangerous, in my opinion, because like in the buildings that I work on in New York, they have water towers, and when they work on the water towers, they shut the pressure down, and if the pressure is released, sometimes that can come out, pop out when it comes back on. So there's a little locking device Let me get one and I'll show you what I'm talking about. Okay, so this is a John Guest. They make all these quick fittings and everything. These little red tabs, these little red locking nuts here, or keys, whatever we call them. I don't know how much I paid for this. It was $100 in the bag. It was a couple of bucks. I don't know. You know, for the penny that this thing costs, you can put this on. Now, you push it all the way in until it stops, and then you put this lock on like this, and so that retainer can never be pushed in, and that could never come out. So this is another safety procedure. If you want to be cautious, like I am, because water problems, you don't want to have if you're a technician, you don't want to have a water leak in a customer's house, especially if you're working in a multi-million-dollar house. You don't want to have to use your insurance. Okay, so you pull that out, push this in, pull it out. So now the trick is, and my advice before I go into that, is use the valve from the manufacturer that it comes with. You can buy these valves online. They look just like this. They might even be made by the same company, but they're not the same. The factory valves have different specs, and I would not recommend using third-party water valves, especially the kind that are made overseas, even though this may be overseas. I don't have a problem with Sub-Zero water valves or Viking water valves. I have problems with these water valves that you can buy on the open market that might even have the same part number. It's not the same. So to be safe, buy the original. So now, here's the problem. I may have to jack this up because here's the water line. How am I going to get my hand back there to push that thing in all the way? So I'm going to use these leveling feet to jack the refrigerator up on this side so I can get my hand under there. Okay, so what we did was we used a couple of pieces of 2x4 and to hold the refrigerator up, and then I put a piece of, this is 1 inch, this is 5/4, it's 1 inch thick underneath the leveling feet, so I can get it up a little higher. I have one in the front and in the back. So let's see if we can get it up a little higher so I can get my hands in there. By the way, this is a 5/16 nut. You can use a socket. I got this drill there. That wasn't all the way under here. No. Okay. Should go up a lot more than that. Of course, I can see there's a lot more thread left in there, but this thing seems to be coming apart. All right, now let me see if I can get my hands under there. Here. Now you see, well, here's the water line, and here's the valve. So we want to push this in. Let me get you some light here. you want to push this in all the way in. Oh, I have to get my hand underneath there this way. And push it in. That's it, as far as it can go. Then take your little lock, these little clips, if you have them. You don't have to have them, but I would recommend, if you're a tech, buy a bag of these for the few bucks it's going to cost you. It could save you a flood. And you don't want that, trust me. So here's the retainer. I'm going to stick that clip right in there like that. I'm going to hook the wiring harness on. They give you plenty of harness to play with here, but not enough tubing, so okay, so let's try to get some light. I mean, I'm working in the corner of my garage here. It's kind of dark over here. So here's your valve. You get that on. There you go. And you could put a tie wrap, a cable tie, around the solenoid to keep that from coming out. But I don't know, unless you have a gremlin in your house. All right, let's see. Here's our 2 screws, 1/4 inch nut driver. We're going to put this valve back in. I hope you can see this. I realize the lighting is not good here, but you'll get the gist. Now, I realize that if you're in a customer's house, you can't do this. You can't just jack it up like that. If you want to jack it up, you got to pull it out of its space, and that could be a hassle in itself. Now, the reason why this, this seems like it's loose, but actually the compression nut is actually tight against the fitting. It's spinning inside the valve, so we can pressurize this with water at a later date to make sure that that valve isn't leaking. But I believe it's allowed to spin it like that. It seals inside. I think once you put the water on, and the pressure will keep it tight. All right, so this is done. This little fan, by the way, is, you could also remove this and give yourself a little bit more room to work in there. This is to circulate the air on the bottom. It's for the condensate. So now, that's the water valve it's in. So what we have to do now is we're going to put the refrigerator back down on the floor and go down to the next project.